Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Salatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen, Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na ma tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman wa ta'liman innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Says فالعين بعدهم كأن حداقها سملت بشوك فهي عور تدمع. Right. So it says the eye, meaning my eye. So this is like we did this before, just a quick reviewing. Like this is like the eye, like ونهى النفس عن الهوى, right? ونهى نفسه عن هواها, right? So the eye after them, as if its pupils have been plucked out with thorns, so they are bleeding or continually passing out. And tadma', and they are continually crying. So my eyes are always crying after these people have gone. My sons have gone. حتى كأني للحوادث مروة. To such an extent. حتى, to such an extent. كأني, that as if I am مروة للحوادث. I am the marwa. I am a marwa, like Safa and Marwa, for problems and difficulties. حوادث. Right, and then we saw this last week where he mentioned somebody else has the same kind of thing. إن الحوادث بالمدينة قد أوجعنني وقرعن مروتي. They have knocked, they have stamped on my marwa. They've damaged me. بصفا المشرق, in the Safa that is in the east. Al-Musharraq usually means. Here he has another narration. Ibn al-Arabi, another narrator of Arabic poetry and early Lughawi, whose name we see in the dictionaries all the time. It's not Musharraq, it's Mushaqqar, which is a place in Bahrain. Right? Totally different. And here he says Musharraq. Usually we say Musharriq. Musharriq is somebody who's facing east. So here he says Musharraq means al-Musalla. So he mentions Shu'bah ibn Hajjaj said, I went out and I was leading the horse of Simak ibn Harb فقال لي أين المشرق? Where is المشرق? يعني where is Masjid al-Aidain? Where is the masjid in Khaif? The masjid of Khaif. Abu Ubaidah, the author of Majaz al-Quran, he says Musharraq is a marketplace in Ta'if, totally different place. So is it a place in Bahrain? Is it a place of the Hajj sites? قال الباهلي, I don't know who this is. هو جبل البرام or Baram. So here Ma'mar, he says شبه نفسه بالحجر يقول كأنما أنا مروة في السوق, as if I am a marwa, as if I am a stone or a place that you go past. في السوق, in a marketplace. تقرعها أقدام الناس ومرورهم بها, right? And the people step on me. ومرور بها للمصائب التي تمر بي فتقرعني كل يوم, and their passing by me is like the afflictions that come past by me and step on me every single day. المرو الحجارة البيض is white stones. المرو, so marwa will be the white stone. الأصمعي, he says يقول لا تزال قارعة من مصيبة تصيبني حتى كأني حجر بمجتمع الناس يقرع كل يوم يقرع كل حين. So he generalizes it. He says it's like I'm like the place. I'm the place where all afflictions hit قارعة, right? So al-qari'ah is So imagine there's a place where you see all the carts, they go over that area, all the camels, they step on that area. That's al-qari'ah. Qari'at الطريق, where everything hits. So al-qari'ah ما القارعة, right? تصيبني حتى كأني حجر, I'm a stone. بمجتمع الناس, in a place where people gather. يقرع كل يوم, and I'm stepped on and smashed and banged every single day. ويقال قرعت مروة فلان إذا أصابته مصيبة تشق عليه. Right? The white stone of so and so was struck, meaning he was afflicted in a very difficult way. الصفا الصخرة العريضة. So it's not Safa itself. So you see that another place, it's a place in a specific place in on the places of Hajj, is a specific place somewhere else in Ta'if. Wallahu alam. But in general, as-Safa is as-Sakhra al-Arida, a large boulder. Wal-Marwa hajrun mil'ul kaf. So Marwa means a little stone that is the size of your hand, and as-Safa means a large boulder. Maybe a large flat boulder, something like that. Wallahu alam. The point is you can step on it. Wallahu alam. And then he says, fine, I'm in great difficulties, but I don't show it to my enemies. My life is extremely, extremely hard, but I don't show it to my enemy. Why? He says, وَتَجَلُّدِي لِلشَّامِتِينَ أُرِيهُمُ. Is this hum? You urihim or urihimu? How am I going to read this? How am I going to read this one? So it's for the meter. Okay? متفاعل متفاعل متفاعل. وتجلدي متفاعل. Right? Let's do this. Where's my... وتجلدي متفاعل. للشامتي متفاعل. نا أريهم متفاعل. So how am I going to read this? Am I going to say أريهم, or أريهم, or أريهم?
أستاذ أريهم.
Good. أريهم. Yeah. وتجلدي للشامتين أريهم. Right? So you're going to read it with what's called إشباع. إشباع. Right? أريهم. أني لريب الدهر لا أتضعضع. Right? So تجلد from the word jild, skin. Right? My tough skinnedness, tajallud. My tough skinnedness, the tough skinnedness, my tough skinnedness, lishamitin, that for the people who are happy at my misfortune. Shamata is schadenfreude. Right? Schadenfreude, when you're happy at someone else's misfortune. Right? Um, right? And then it puts a little comma here. So my tajallud is for my shamiteen. My my tough skinness is for those people. Colon. أريهم أني لريب الدهر لا أتضعضع. I show them, I show them that I لا أتضعضع. What does that mean? لا أتضعضع. It means to weaken. Where is he going to explain it? لا, it doesn't mention it here. Oh, أتكسر. There it is. I do not break down. I'm not going to break down. They want to see me break. I'm not going to break. Right? وتجلدي للشامتين أريهم أني لريب الدهر لا أتضعضع لا أتكسر. I'm not going to break down. Right? I'm not gonna break down due to the raib, the uncertainty and scariness and vicissitudes of blind fate, right? Blind fate, dumb fate. You know, we've had this idea. So this is it's interesting. He's actually not Jahili, right? This is Islami. So, you know, when we say Islami, we mean like it's in that period, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that he's actually expressing Islamic values. So he's actually this line here could easily have been said in the Jahiliyyah, right? So not all Islamic values immediately penetrate the Muslim world, right? وتجلدي للشامتين أريهم أني لرايب الدهر لا أتضعضع, right? And my hard skinness, my toughness is for those people who would laugh at me and be happy and gloat that I'm in misfortune. I show them that I will not break before the vicissitudes and difficulties and uncertainty of cruel fate. الأصمعي قال يخلط هذا البيت بقصيدة متمم أو مالك بن نويرة التي على العين. So he says what you find is there's another poem that also ends in an ayn with a waw, like this. تفجع صر صرمت زنينة حبل من صرمت زنيبة حبل من لا يقطع حبل الخليل ولا الأمانة تفجع. So it's the same feeling, it's about sadness, and it has the same ending. So he says what's happening is this poem, this line here, is so famous that it's getting mixed up with other things. Right? It gets mixed up with other poetry that's the same. So you have to understand it's all oral tradition. Everyone's just sharing poems from different people. This poem and that poem. And then what they do, they mix this poem up with that poem. Right? So this is what we call in hadith, we call it mudraj. Right? When you mix one thing with something else, right? One hadith is famous, but you mix it with another hadith. Or one hadith is famous, you mix it with another phrase. Or the Prophet ﷺ says one thing, and then the Sahabi or Tabi'i says something else, and then it gets appended to it and becomes part of it. It's almost a part of the same quote. So both of these people, Malik ibn Nuwayra and Mutammim, they both have poems that are similar, a similar sound. So this line, he says, keeps getting mixed up, and people will put it in there, even though it's not. Right? Does it make sense? So this is indicative of the problem of authenticity and how this kind of thing is happening, that people, you know. قال أبو الفضل قال لي من قرأه عليه فأجازه. So these are languages, this is language that the muhaddithin will use. قرأ عليه أجازه, right? So the way that narrating poetry is the same as hadith, that in general poetry is just not as authentic. Right? So the problems that apply to hadith apply to poetry and more. قال تنازعاه, right? The two of them fought over this line. يعني متمما أو مالكا أو أبا ذؤيب. The two of them, and then he mentions three people kind of fought over this line, right? Maybe, you know, Allah A'lam. والنفس راغبة إذا رغبتها وإذا ترد إلى قليل تقنع. Right? And the nafs is راغبة, wants. إذا رغبتها, if you let it want. وإذا ترد إلى قليل تقنع. Right? So this is how it works. The more you give, right? The more you give your nafs and the more you let your nafs think about possibilities and think about this and think about entertain these wants, it becomes more and more and more and becomes an obsession and it actually becomes unmanageable. Actually becomes unmanageable. Like the nafs is designed to be unmanageable, right? The nafs is designed to be unquenchable, right? Why do you think the nafs has been designed to be unquenchable? Like it doesn't matter what you give it, it won't be enough. Why is that the case? So the nafs is a very, very useful tool, but we just use it for the wrong thing. So why is the nafs insatiable? What do you think? Who just joined? Shawwal, assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Ustaz.
You joined at the right time.
I apologize
Okay,
for being late.
no worries.
Mhm.
So it says, وَالنَّفْسُ رَاغِبَةٌ إِذَا رَغَبْتَهَا. The nafs wants if you make it want. وَإِذَا تُرَدُّ إِلَى قَلِيلٍ. But if it is returned to a small amount of something, تَقْنَعُ, it will be satisfied. So why is the nafs? The nafs is built to never be satiated. Why is that the case? It's the addictive nature of the nafs is very important. So what are we supposed to be addicted to? What is the one healthy addiction that we should always be seeking more and more and more and more of, and it will never have enough, and it itself is unlimited? Okay, one being that is unlimited. Let's make it easier, obvious, more obvious.
You say like experience of God, Allah.
Exactly, right? So Allah subhanahu, we are built, so we have a ruh. We have a ruh, right? And this is and this is when nafs and the ruh, its trajectory is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we do is we get our ruh, which is it's built for the infinite and it's built for this never like absolute like never-ending quest to just get closer and closer and closer to Allah and experience Allah more and more and more and more and more forever and ever and ever and ever. That's what it's built to do, right? The ruh is from the word, we have the word rah, which means wine. Ruh is from the word rih, which is the wind, right? It's this free thing, right? It's very different. So now what we do is we get your ruh and you direct it towards a cell phone, right? So I don't know how old are you, right? But the rest of us remember how when they first got the phones, cell phones, right? The bricks, the big huge cell phones, Shawwal and Adib, right? So you have these huge. So then they were trying to what they're trying to do is make them smaller. So now you say, I don't want that. I want the smaller phone, and then a smaller phone, and then a smaller phone, right? And then they started having more technology in the phone. So I want to have, oh, I'm gonna have the iPhone 1, ooh, iPhone 1, iPhone 2, iPhone 3, but it never stops, right? You get into cars, you're getting more into cars, and then more into cars, and then more into cars. It doesn't stop, right? drugs. Someone starts smoking, then they start doing weed. Then it's like, oh, let's try something else. Let's try this, try that. And they're into heroin, and then becomes an addiction, and then they need more, and it's just not enough, right? And their pleasure threshold gets pushed higher and higher and higher. And they're in a very, very difficult situation where everything in life becomes dark and like nothing really, like things aren't pleasurable to them. It's a very, very difficult situation to be in, right? They did this with these rats. They would have rats that they took a very particular thing out of their brain. Whenever the rat would mate, the hormone that said you're satisfied wouldn't be emitted. So the rat would keep mating until it actually died. It would just keep going, going, going until it actually died. It's actually a very, very painful situation to be in, where you can't get enough of something and there's no way to get it, and you're actually never satisfied. So that is when we make a ruh and nafs. What is the difference between the ruh and the nafs? The same thing. There's no difference between the two of them. They're the same thing. They're just used in the wrong way. When the ruh, when the you is turned to its actual thing, you call it the ruh. The ruh is turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's working on its actual, it's a tool that it's being used for. It's called a ruh. When you get the ruh and you turn it towards people, things, the limited, right? Control. I just want to control everybody, right? The what's it called? What's the word? The obsession of control. I want to control everybody. I want to be. It's not enough to just be the king of my country. I need to conquer another country, right? The world is not enough, right? James Bond film, right? It's like you just got to keep going more and more and more. It's not enough, right? It's just not. It's not enough. Look at fear. You just become more and more paranoid, right? People who are wealthy. Okay, I need to save more money. Still paranoid. I need to open another bank account. Still born paranoid. Paranoia, right? It's the same thing. So when you turn your nafs, you turn your soul to the wrong thing, then إذا رغبتها, when you let it go, فهي راغبة, then it wants those things. It won't actually ever be enough. So the world is not enough, right? The world is not enough, right? That's the issue, because you have a soul, right? And your soul is designed for something else. So you will always and forever be unhappy if you turn yourself to anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So, وَإِذَا تُرَدُّ إِلَى قَلِيلٍ تَقْنَعُ, but if you just accept a small amount, then it's fine. So in reality, if you look at the paradigm they're talking about, zuhud in this man's eyes, right, and in many people's eyes, is very different to the zuhud in Islam. Okay, so the ulama, they talk about zuhud and they give it an example. They said there's a woman who's getting married, okay, and she's getting dressed up to get married. And there's people who are abna dunya, people who love the dunya. So they're obsessed with her makeup, they're obsessed with her dress, they're obsessed with her hair. They're like really obsessed with it. These people will never ever be happy, because she will never be pretty enough. And there won't be enough of her, and there won't be enough access to her, and there won't be this. It will never be enough. It's not enough. Right? It doesn't matter what you have, it will never be enough. Then you have the quote unquote zuhad, people who are unattached. They're trying to burn her hair, put charcoal in her eyes, set fire to her dress, rip up her whatever thing, cut her hair off, shave her head off, scribble things on her face, right? They're like anti-dunya, right? But the arif billah, the person who has a ruh and is using the ruh for what it is not even looking at her, looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So zuhud is not what he's describing here. وَإِذَا تُرَدُّ إِلَى قَلِيلٍ تَقْنَعُ. Zuhud is not, it's okay, I accept the fact that I have nothing in life. That is not called zuhud. Zuhud is not a hatred of the dunya. Zuhud is not, zuhud is like the heroin addict. You talk to the heroin addict about something else, he's just not interested. Like, it's not on his money. You're talking to him, he's just interested in one thing. What money can he get so they can go and get his next hit? Right? That's zuhud. Right? Meaning, it's not that I don't care about these things, it's that I care about something else. So the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's a zahid in the dunya because he's busy with something else. right? So he doesn't hate the dunya. He's not opposed to having a Porsche. He's not opposed to having nice coffee. He's not opposed to eating caviar. He's not opposed to having a mansion. He's just not interested in it because he's busy with something else. So this here, وَإِذَا تُرَدُّ إِلَى قَلِيلٍ تَقْنَعُ. Yes and no, right? It's not on a slow level, yeah, on a low level, yeah, but it's actually not. That's not Zuhud al-Islami. Zuhud al-Islami is al-inshighal billah, right? This person's busy with Allah, busy with way bigger things. Why would I care about that, right? Like if I ask you right now, tell me something in your room that you're not aware of or that you're not thinking about. Like there's infinite things that you're just not interested in. Like it's not relevant. You don't even think about it, you don't remember that you didn't remember it. It's just totally insignificant because it's just not relevant to you. It's not doesn't fit within your any priorities. There's places in the world, things that happen in the world, things that people have said to you that you've literally deleted from your mind because it's super irrelevant to you, because you're busy with something else. So zuhud is not turning away from the dunya. Zuhud is turning to Allah. There's a difference. Right? Anyway, يقول النفس تسمو. Right? النفس تسمو. I'm not sure why he uses the word تسمو. So he says the nafs goes up. Sama yasmu, to go up. ورغبتها في كثرة المال, and that she wants lots of money. فإذا جعلت تعطي النفس حاجتها رغبت. When you keep giving it what it wants, it will want to have more, right? As Imam Busiri says, والنفس كالطفل إن تهمله شب على حب الرضاع وإن تفطمه ينفطم. Right? So if you keep giving it what it wants, right, it will not stop. Right? That's just the nature of it. So it's not other people. Sometimes we see other people who just are never satiated, but in reality, that's actually the nature of it. You yourself might be able, for example, be satiated with food. Food's not an issue for you, but it's going to be something else. Excuse me. So this is just the nature of the self. Obsessive, to be the golem, right? That's how it is, the golem within, right? وإذا لم تخلى النفس ما تريد, right? تخلى. The word is I think there's another word. تخلى. Yeah, it means when it's not given. I'm trying to think the word here. Can't remember what it is now. Anyway, وقيل لها ليس لك إلا ذا القليل ارتدت ورضيت وقنعت. Right? So when you say you can't have it, right? And so you cut so that's by limiting it, right? You can't have it. But in reality, that's not how it works. And what's going to happen is it's going to break, right? That's like a water pressure, right? So there's water going into some container, and then there's a few holes coming out. So the water's going out of these holes. So you plug each hole, right? That's what he's talking about. Like you can't go that way. But what's going to eventually happen? It's going to pop, right? Tell a kid, don't move, don't talk, don't eat the food, don't do this, 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 don't do this. The kid is going to pop one way or the other. The adult is going to pop one way or the other. And you tell people you can't have this, and you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this. They're going to pop one way or the other. It's going to be a serious problem, right? Whereas in Islam, what do we do? Is you direct. It's not that you give to your nafs necessarily. That is usually a tool, but when this person, if you can think about this person, where all their channels are cut off apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's fine, right? Now, in the meantime, when the channel to Allah is not open yet, because the person isn't really able to connect in prayer, isn't really able to connect in dhikr, isn't this kind of like the iman is not really flowing yet, right? Then you also have to be careful because, let's say for kids, for example, right? So like you block off this, 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 and then they don't have that other outlet, right? They don't have the Iman outlet because it's not really open. The channel's not open yet for them. And you have to be very careful because they can break as well. But in principle, you don't need anything other than Allah, right? You could just, right? He says here, وَمِثْلُ قَوْلِهِمْ النَّفْسُ عَرُوفٌ, right? He says, النَّفْسُ عَرُوفٌ. What does that mean? حاملة صبور, right? إذا حملت على أمر احتمله, right? It's عروف. That's very interesting. عروف. النفس عروف. I'm not quite sure what the meaning of what the meaning of the arafa here means, but it means that it can deal. The nafs can deal with a lot of things, basically. So it says النفس عروف. I'm not sure what the meaning of ayn fa ra here means. How it's to do with ma'rifa or arafa and to know, and how is it related on fa'ul, I don't know. وقال أسمع هذا أبرع بيت قالته العرب عجب من العجب جودة. He said this is one of the greatest lines that the Arabs ever said. It's a marvelous line, right? Sounds nice, right? So it's important to understand though that it might be beautiful in terms of Arabic language, okay? But there's other things that are going to come out later on. Okay, so in my capacity as a student of knowledge and as a teacher, I'm not interested in anything that is beyond the Islamic period, right? There is enough. So why am I reading this text, or why are we studying this text? It's so we can understand Quran and Sunnah. That's what we're interested in. Not that we can learn from Abu Dhaib al-Hudhali, right? So I want to see language. I want to see example. I want to see imagery. I want to see also cultural references to help me understand Quran and Sunnah. That's what we're interested in. You don't need to go to Abbasid literature, which is very expensive, Mamluk literature, Sufi literature. You don't need any of these things. You don't need any of those things. Okay. So in terms of Arabic language, and in reality, most of us, if you just spent your whole life just doing the main books, the main reference books in reading the main reference books in Jahili poetry and Umayyad poetry, in Islamic poetry, that's enough. You would never be able to finish it. So there's no point, right? So I'm not interested in Mutanabbi. I'm not interested in anybody else, right? It's not interesting. However, is this really true? So Al-Asma'i says, هذا أبرع بيت قالته العرب عجب من العجب جودة. Maybe جودة in terms of Arabiya, right? But in terms of what he's saying is totally different. So later on, right, when you're talking about, for example, the nafs and all these things, there's way better lines. Ibn Farid, other people, even recently, look at the diwan of recent people in the 20th century, right? Amazing things, like, as one sheikh said it. He said these qasaid, these poems, the spiritual poems, these are mutuna ilmiya. These are like proper textbooks, right? Like very, very succinct, put something very, very beautifully, right? Like really, really key. Summarize key concepts in the Quran and Sunnah in very, very careful, subtle ways. So here when he says هذا أبرع بيت قالته العرب, maybe in terms of Arabic language, but in terms of like really hitting a key point, it's very, very different. One line of poetry, for example, that's a great solace to me, and I think it's very important. I don't know, I can't remember who said it. Maybe like Al-Jundi or something like that. I can't remember who it is. He says, لا ترى في شمسها ظل السوى فهي شمس وهي ظل وهي في. لا ترى في شمسها ظل السوى فهي شمس وهي ظل وهي في. So he says, you will, in her light, the light of being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will never see the shadow of anything else. There is actually no darkness. It's not darkness and light, with Allah and without Allah, good and bad. There isn't good and bad. That's not true. There isn't good times and bad times. There isn't light and dark. It's only light, right? And so in her light, لا ترى في شمسها ظل سوى. You will never see any darkness, any shadow in her light. فهي ظل فهي شمس وهي ظل وهي فيء. So in reality, there is the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sun, and the shadow is also the light of Allah. And the shadow, the fate, the light, the shadow that comes across as the day goes to the end, that's called the fate, that's also Allah. So shaitan is Allah's tool. The enemy is Allah's tool. The pain is Allah's tool. Everything is directly 100% from Allah. Right? It's just you just can't see things properly. You see things as light and dark, or good and bad. It's not like that. Right? So for me, for example, that's a very, very profound thing. It's like, the easy times and the bad times. There isn't easy times and bad times. 1 second, my cat is destroying my door. All right, it's morning here. The kittens they're not really kittens anymore. They're like mini cats, but they're very excited. Okay. So there's many lines of poetry like that. But I wouldn't be interested in that academically. That's just personally, like, there's many lines of poetry like that. People summarize very key things, right? And that's in terms of nazm, right? It's poetry. In terms of nathar, for example, read Ibn Ata'illah Iskandari, right? He summarizes really key things in the Quran and Sunnah very succinctly, right? As nathar. Okay. So then he continues, says, وَالدَّهْرُ. And so this line, this refrain, is this first part here, وَالدَّهْرُ لَا يَبْقَى عَلَى حَدَثَانِهِ. This is going to be repeated 3 times in this poem. Because we're going to see 3 different. We've seen the intro. Now he's going to compare his life, or the situation of his life, or the situation of how there's no hope in life. And anything that is strong, healthy, wealthy will always fade away in the face of cruel fate. So it says وَالدَّهْرُ. And notice the sentence order. So it says لا يبقى. What he's saying is لا يبقى على حدثان الدهر كذا. He says cannot remain against the hadathan. Hadathan is the same word as hadath. Hadath is something happening, but hadathan is a part of fa'alan, which is the like jala yajulu jawlan wa jawalanan. Dara yaduru dawran wa dawaranan. Right? What is it? ذاب يذوب ذوبا وذوبانا. So fa'alan is a masdar, which is a masdar of activity, like Ramadan. So jawalan, jawl means going around. Jawalan, actively going around. Right? Haya, living. Hayawan, actively living. Okay? Hadath, something happens. Hadathan, something actively and dangerously happening. Right? As hadathan ad-dahr. Right? Hadathan ad-dahr, the active and uncontrollable and unpredictable activity of fate. Right? So he says, and fate does not remain in face of its unpredictable and active motions, and then the fa'il of yabqa is going to change into 3 different things here. So then he's talking about a wild donkey, right? But so notice the structure. He should say Jonas Sarati, this particular wild donkey, cannot be safe in face of dahr, but he puts dahr first. وَالدَّهْرُ لَا يَبْقَى عَلَى حَدَثَانِهِ جَوْنُ الصَّرَاتِ. Right? Does that make sense? So it's very key, making dahr the mubtada here is very, very important. Okay, so now he's going to talk about basically three scenarios. The first scenario is this wild ass, which comes up a lot in poetry. Okay, it comes up a lot, right? So he calls it himar, a donkey. It's not really a donkey. It's called an onager, 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 right? So this is a wild donkey. I'll just share it. This is a wild donkey that that you find. And let me just quickly. Actually, want to get a book on this. Try and find something. Oh my God. I want to get a book on like ancient book animals of the Middle East. It comes up a lot. So here, this is called the onager. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. Is that a J? I don't know how to pronounce this. Also known as Hermione or Asiatic wild ass, is a species of the family member of the was described and given its biological name by German. Six subspecies are accepted. They exist. Okay, reddish brown or yellow brown, and has a broad It had a wide range from southwest to central and northern Asia, including the Levant region, Arabian Peninsula, Afghanistan, and Siberia. The prehistoric European wild ass subspecies ranged through, so this doesn't exist until this doesn't exist anymore. During the 20th century, it lost most of ranges in the Middle East, and right, it doesn't exist basically. So here we have the Syrian wild ass, Mongolian, extinct subspecies. So, but this is spoken about all the time. So maybe the Arabian ones still exist. I don't know. So its range was Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey. So they talked about it all the time. It's now extinct in Afghanistan, unfortunately. So here, look, it comes up in pictures all the time. A lion, look here, lions fighting these things. So we talk about lions, right? But like, where are the lions though? Because lions are now extinct. So it's very important. They talk about things, right? There's references in the Quran to animals, right? حمر مستنفرة فرت من قسورة, right? So that picture of there's an image in their mind of hummer, of wild asses like this, being chased by lions. But there aren't any more lions in Arabia, and I don't think there are any more of these things, right? Conservation reintroduced, including other regions of Syria, wild ass used to occur. Yeah, it doesn't exist. I think it's gone. So, even like the Barbary lion, right? So in the Greco-Roman culture, talking about the lion. But where's the lion in Eastern Europe? There's no lions. North Africa, where's the lion? The Barbary lion, that's gone now. Right? A lot of these things are in recent history, these things have disappeared. So here's the name Kulan as well. That's another name. It's called a Kulan. right? So this is what we're going to talk about here. It says an onager stallion may adopt harem-type social groups. That's what he's going to talk about. Right? There's him and his 4 females. Does it even exist anymore? They still exist in Saudi Arabia, but they are not the original subspecies native to the area. So basically, they were, yeah, they brought in something else. They brought in the Persian one. So that the native subspecies extinct. 1920s, which is a shame, right? So there's a question. In fiqh, I don't know if that what the answer is really. Is like preservation of breeds and preservation of animals. You know, is that actually fard kifaya in itself? You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you think about some of these things, when you have a sub, like let's say for example, like what happened. You can imagine that there's some imbalance, right? Some things happen. But let's say, for example, the red what is it? The red squirrel. So everyone knows about the red squirrel in Europe. So basically, like when the gray squirrel, which is bigger than the red squirrel, it came from America, and basically it's bigger than the red squirrel, and can eat everything that the red squirrel can eat and more. So the red squirrel has a very specific diet, whereas the gray squirrel has a more general diet. So it's just basically a more robust, more aggressive, bigger version. So it actually caused problems. So is it a fard kifaya to preserve the red squirrel? You know what I'm saying? Is that like so the way that we normally look at things is wherever there's the harm. Like if you didn't have anybody teaching Arabic, you would have harm. So therefore, teaching Arabic is fard kifaya. If you didn't have anybody studying pharmacology, then we'd have problems. So therefore, it's fard kifaya, right? We look at it from that point of view. So like, where is the harm of not having the red squirrel? You know what I'm saying? Or let's say something very, very specific, like the different subspecies of leopard, right? There's like I think like 7 subspecies of leopard. Like is it really going to make any difference? So what's happened here is we've lost the Syrian wild ass and we've reintroduced a Persian wild ass. Like, does it really change the whole nature? Like you could imagine that they kind of eat the same kind of things probably, you know, does it really change everything? Like not having an animal in that particular situation, right? Is like say, for example, introducing rabbits to Australia, you could imagine that's a huge problem because it changes the whole system and it does actually harm the system, right? But if you said if it like is it a fard kifaya to preserve it for the sake of preserving it? Like we have to have, let's say, this subspecies of leopard had a very particular size, colored shape, whatever, like the skin on the coat, it looked slightly different. It was more red than another one, right? And that became extinct. And you just replaced it with another one that does the same thing and eats the same prey. Like, what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm sure like somebody who's involved in like a zoology would be like shocked to hear this, but I think the general way that we look at it is more like utilitarian, like I mean, as long as no one's going to get harmed, that doesn't need to exist necessarily. Wallahu a'lam. However, when you look on a bigger picture, right, when you have all these various animals going extinct in the last 100 years, it's a huge problem, right? Okay, so anyway, the point is now going to paint this picture of fate, cruel fate, and how everything can be perfect, but eventually it will all fall apart, right? So this is like Batman, right? Batman, he's if I don't know about the film, I haven't watched any of the new Batman films, but the cartoon Batman, Lego Batman. Has anybody watched it? Hama, Shawwal, have you watched it?
Long time ago.
The Lego one, I think it came out recently, wasn't that long ago? It was. There's a Lego Batman that so basically he's this like he can't open up to people because he has he's the way he looks at life is that basically he lost his parents and he's decided never to open up his heart to anybody ever again because he knows he's just gonna lose them. So he just lives by himself and does his own thing and he does not team up with anybody and doesn't open up his heart to anybody, right? Because he's decided, khalas, that's it, right? And there are many people who live life like that. They live life like that. They've just given up on everybody. They've been really badly heartbroken. So then they just decide, you know what? Nothing's worth it, right? I haven't studied Taming of the Shrew, but I think it's something like that. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, so he says, so now he's talking about the first scenario is this very, very happy wild donkey who has his jada'id, which is he has his females. So it says, وَالدَّهْرُ لَا يَبْقَى عَلَى حَدَثَانِهِ جَوْنُ الصَّرَاتِ. جَوْنُ الصَّرَاتِ is going to explain in a second here. A أَسْوَدُ الظَّهْرِ, the black-backed one. A black-backed one. The sara is his back. So it says the black-backed one. Lahu jada'idu. He has, so jada'id is not the plural of jadida. It is the plural of jadud. Jadud, wahilati la labana laha. So she's new, a new female, right? She doesn't have any milk. Arba'u, right? Arba', you could say arba' or arba'a, right? When you're describing a word with a number, you could either, so we know with numbers like 3 to 9 or 3 to 10 is the opposite gender, right? We say khamsatu rijalin and khamsu nisa'in. So now if you if you make it a sifa, jada'idu arba'u, you could say jada'idu arba'atun or jada'idu arba'un, right? Arba'un. Jada'idu arba'un or jada'idu arba'atun, right? Al-madhahib al-arba'atu, al-madhahib al-arba'u, right? You can do both. وهي التي لا لبن لها. قال أصمعي يعني حمارا. جون السرات أي أسود الظهر وظهر كل شيء سراته وأعلى ظهر السرى the top of the back. والمعنى يقول لئن هلك بني وأصابني ما أصابني بعدهم فالدهر لا يبقى على حدثانه هذا الحمار, right? If this will happen to me, this person is not going to survive either. لا يبقى على حدثانه, he will not survive in face of these unpredictable and violent storms of fate, right? What is it? Shakespeare, how did it, was he, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. That's what it is. Hadathan, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, right? That's in Hamlet, right? I think it's in Hamlet. Slings and arrows. Yeah. So this is in the famous soliloquy, right? Right. So whether it is noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more. Right. And by asleep we say end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consumption devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. There's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come. when we may have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that many calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time? Right? These are what he's talking about, the whips and scorns of time. Right? And then that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what is it? يشتمن ابن آدم يشتمني ولم يكن ليشتمني, right? That the son of Adam scorns me or insults me, and he would never have a right to insult me, right? And so he said, what? So what is that? Is that he says يسب الدهر or عفوا يسبني ولم لا, I can't remember the hadith now. It says it's either يشتمني or يسبني, right? ولم يكن يشتمني. I can't remember what it is now, but then he says, يسب الدهر وأنا الدهر. Like, so man curses fate. Oh my God, life is like this. Life's so bad, right? I hate life, right? So and then the process, and then the hadith Qudsi mentions وأنا الدهر. I am fate. There's nobody, right? I'm the one, أقلب الليل والنهار, right? I'm the one who changes night and day and makes these things happen. I'm the one who's making these things happen. I'm the direct source of every single thing in your life, right? Okay, so when it says jadud al-atan, so this word himar and atan is going to come up a lot in Jahili poetry. It's not. I don't know if there's any references to actual donkeys, but the himar meaning the wild ass, and the atan meaning the wild female ass, the jenny, right? Atan. And then also we're going to see the word shah, sheep, which means a gazelle, or baqara, which means an oryx, a large gazelle. Al-jawn as-sawad ila al-humra. So notice it's not really just, it's a dark red, right? So if you look at a black cat through the sun, right? If you look at a black cat, you'll see that's actually red. It's like dark, it's like very dark هنا. والأصمعي ومعمر الجدائد الأتن أتان أتن التي قد خفت ألبانها واحدتها جدود وفلات جداء ليس بها ماء جداء وامرأة جداء لا ثدي لها. Right, so either she can't have any milk or صغيرة الثدي أو قصيرة الثديين. وأجد النخل إذا أدرك. والجداد بعض ما يعمل به الحائك. Something that a weaver uses, الجداد. والجدد الأرض ليس بها نبت. That's called جدد. أجد كما يقال أصرم أجد to come. So he's saying that it's not أجد. So أجد meaning like أدرك. So how do you say it? أفعل, one of the meanings of أفعل is to come to the time of something, like أحصد الزرع means أحصد means it's now the time of hasad. Right, and so الزرع, the crops are now ready for harvest. أحصد, so to come to a time, right? أورق, to come to the time of having leaves, right? أصبح, to come to the time of the morning. Okay, inshallah, we'll stop here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.